talk this morning about ongoing progress to establish a legal entity identifier standard. So, how is this ultimately going to be set up, given all the various governance issues related to it?
Okay, so at the moment there's a lot of work that's happening with the FSB, who have put together an implementation group of international regulators. And they're working towards the G20 target of introducing a global legal entity identifier. The FSB implementation group are supported by a group which is known as the PSPG, which is an industry advisory group, and that's industry including financial services but not exclusively financial services. There's a lot of expertise from other industries there as well. And those groups, the implementation group and the PSPG, are working to firstly define a charter. The charter is something that regulators will sign up to become members of something called the ROC, which is the Regulatory Oversight Council, the ROC. The ROC will then govern the global LEI process, so they'll ensure that it continues to be managed as a public good. They will oversee a central operating unit which will have a board of directors, and that central operating unit will really be the operational day-to-day management of LEI globally. The central operating unit will also accumulate all of the data, so all of the LEI codes, and be able to manage and share that information. And the central operating unit will be supported by local operating units, which are the local markets presence, the real local expertise in each of the different jurisdictions and sometimes cross jurisdictions. And those local operating units will manage the data, will issue the codes, will monitor corporate actions and ensure that the data is maintained to a high quality.
So a CICI utility, the CICI utility, has been set up. Can you explain the funding structure for that?
Sure. So the CFTC have mandated the use of a CICI for all of the swaps reporting. The CICI code, or the CC code, is being jointly managed and issued by DTCC and SWIFT, and I work for DTCC. We have a new utility website, which is cciutility.org, where firms register and also search and download information around the CC codes. And the model for that is that the access to the information, so the download of the files, the search of the website is free. Very similar to a phone book concept, where we're actually looking for registrants who effectively are buying a phone number, buying a CC code. The cost is in purchasing your number, but the access to the directory of information for everybody else who wants to consume the information is free of charge. So it goes back to some of the basic early principles around legal entity identifier, which is that the LEI should be a passport to trade in financial markets, that the end counterparties would purchase a code and pay on an annual basis an ongoing fee to ensure that code is maintained and the data is recertified. The charge is $200 US to register a new CC, $100 annually for those primary parties, the end counterparties, to recertify that the information about their entity is accurate and up to date. But for anyone who wants to search the system, download the data, the information is free and it's there as a public good.
So when any talk of standards, sort of the talk moves to, is the industry sort of ready for this? I mean, is the industry ready for an LEI, or?
Every firm's going to be at a different start point on this. So those firms that have central legal entity reference data systems, ideally globally and cross-asset class, are going to be in a better start position than those firms that have the data in a more disparate structure. So a lot of firms will have a central legal entity reference database, and the firms that we're talking to, a lot of them are looking to apply the CC code and in the future the global LEI against that central counterparty record, and then they can pervade it through their systems and ensure it gets to the right places where the reporting needs to be done. Are firms ready? I think when it comes to a new regulation, firms always ensure that they're ready. So firms will do what they have to do to meet the regulatory requirements. At the moment, the CFTC have a requirement for swaps reporting coming into force shortly, and firms will meet that requirement. As LEI is introduced for other asset classes and for other regulators in the future, then of course the firms will ensure that their organisation are able to meet those reporting requirements as well. So different start points, but yes, ultimately firms will ensure that they're ready because it's a new regulation.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.